name's Catherine Burns. I work at Birmingham City University. Recently joined the School of Fashion and Textiles, where I am very, very happy. Anyway, that's behind the by. We would like to thank Brintons very much for hosting this event. We've got 4 talks, which starts with Carolina, who is from Hive. Is that right?
Yes.
Good. Then Jean from the university. Then we've got the Textura, Nicola from Textura, and finally Amy from Future Laboratory. Lovely. So the plan is 4 short talks and then questions and answers.
Thank you again to Birmingham University, because we have a long-term relationship with them, and we very, very much love this project. And thank you for Brintons to organize this. So my name is Carolina. I am the manager director for Color Hive. Yes, we used to be called Global Color Research, and maybe you are familiar more with this name. But recently we became Color Hive because now we are part of Duha Group, which is, this is just very, very quickly background, a large organization that is very involved in color and in printing, and they have offices in 5 different countries. That's why we are very excited. So a part of what we do as a color forecasters, we are also color consultants for many industries. We help them in the product development and in the market material to find which colors will be right for them. And for that, what we do is forecast trends 2 years ahead of the season. Probably you're familiar with our Mix magazine, which is part of the reason I am here today, because we every year predict 4 color trends. And these color trends speak about which colors will inspire the designers in the design world, but also in the interior design. And with these trends, what we do is trying to give inspiration to the designers for them to know which colors will be iconic for that season, but as well for them to find a reference to work with new colors, new combinations, and do products that they can sell better, which at the end of the day, that's the aim of every type of business. The way we do trends, and this is a bit relevant for what we are doing today, is we invite people around the world to come to our studio 2 times a year and speak with us which factors will be key in the artistic way, in the design, technological. We speak about everything that will be influence these trends. With this is the key research for us to put the trends together. With Birmingham University, well, we have panels as well around Europe, North America, South America. We are very understandable of the Middle East market because we have clients there and we have predicted trends before. And soon probably we will be doing trends as well for Australia. And that's why giving us the understanding for companies like Brintons and for students like in Birmingham University to give them a base. Then after they can take it on their jobs wherever they are going and wherever they decide to do later. Some of them, they will be textile designers, but others, they will working with other type of manufacturers. So for them, it's very important to know how these colors can change and adapt it to other countries as well. As a part of the project, and the last time we have been running this project since 2009. And it was one of our first projects in terms of working with a university and working as close as we work with Birmingham. What we give it to them every year is 2 different trends. We always predict 4, which, because I have a very limited time, I'm not going through all this. But the last time that we did this project, we finished in January, yes. We did 2 trends. We did Strata, which you have in here some of the designs that the students did, and we did as well Play. For Strata, we was looking into how in 2014 we was looking what will happen in 2016-17 with a different influence, and one of them was talking about how landscapes are changing and how this changing are uncontrollable for the humans, but at the same time inspire us to use colors that look into these changes that can be like at the melting of the glaciers or different landscapes. So you can see that the palette is kind of neutral, but it's very geological. My colleague Hannah, which is there, she goes every year and briefs the students with these trends and does a much longer presentation of what we are saying today. And this is the key focus for the students to start to working. So what we do is we're working with the team of Birmingham and giving them the colors, and we put together some mood boards and inspiration palettes for the students to understand the concept, because the idea is for them to work with concepts that they have not ever seen and something that in the future they can take it on board and do it on their own. with this, they start to put in prototypes for textiles and printings. And after, they become reality, as you can see here, with the collaboration with Brintons and other companies, and they work as well with them, like Textura. The project is very hands-on, and what we try to do is embrace their creativity. Some of the projects, they become they choose the trend and they like it the most. Other times they are monitoring by the university, but the main idea is to create something that is sellable after. As well, we have a slice. This is some of the very beginning, and as you see in here is the sofa that you can see today, which is amazing, and the print for the carpet, which I believe was a painting for one of the students. Then through the process that they did, it becomes this beautiful carpet. The other trend that I bring with me, but we don't have in here a sample, but I have a picture, was play. And play, probably for these ones of you that have the opportunity to go to Milan last year, you will see how Memphis started to be a very big influence in the design, and it's going to filter through the different industries. And we have a trend that it was as well having this strong influence called play, which are very bold colors and very creative. We always try to give to the students two different trends, one that come more into the neutral and more size of the business than is relative to the corporate sales, and we give them something very creative, because every design has a different personality, and it's very important for them to develop this through what we talk in the creativity process. And this was one of the results, and they did it for play, which are very nice and playful. And even if sometimes we're thinking in business and what will be sell, perhaps it's not the colors that you will be choosing, but obviously you're going to see in there. This is part of a project that we did previous years with them, which is called Frame as well. And as you see, you can see how the blocking and the colors are filtering through the different years, and we're ending with colors like that. So more or less, that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. I think now Jim is gonna. Yes. Thank you.
This is the project trend as it was shown at the furniture show this last January. So it's a very quick turnover project. The students start this project the first week of term, which is last week in September. Hannah comes in and does a presentation to the students. Then about 3 or 4 weeks later, she comes and we do an interim review. And then 3 or 4 weeks later, they hand in their project. And so it's a massive amount of work. And the reason why they excel and they do so well is working with industry is so motivating. You know, having a live project and having an industry expert come and talk to them is so hugely motivating, and I really wish that we could have a little bit more of that happening. And they always cite this project as being one of their favorite projects in the whole course. And one of their favorite things is always Hannah's lecture. What did you like about this module? Hannah Milleen. And you know, because it always has a different kind of gravitas when it comes from an industry expert. So we've been so lucky. This project has been running for about 7 years now. Do you want to flip? About 7 years now. And so this is some of how they looked on the stands at the trade shows. And every year we have been working with more and more manufacturers. And I think, you know, once they start to understand the caliber of the work that we're achieving, more people are interested in engaging with us, which is exactly what we want to do with this. We want people to recognize the strength of what our students bring to the table and what their real talents are and how they can be used. And not only that, it's really fantastic for the students because their vision, since we've started doing this project and had the opportunity to apply their designs, to progress their designs, to apply their designs, their vision of what their designs could be has become just, the expansion is quite incredible. We have students, and the support that we've had from Brintons the last 3 or 4 years has been outstanding. And I think, you know, we're very happy with our growing Brintons archive, which we show we have on display at the university from time to time, and it's just delightful. We have a student who's so excited about the Brintons carpets that she's actually produced one of her own for her degree show this year. So she's been working with some people in Brintons making a carpet for her show, which goes up at the end of this week. So it's all it's been a tremendous project for us, basically. And the wonderful thing about this project, if you just want to flip, I'm not really talking to the slides as I don't. I'm not. So these are some of the industries that we've collaborated with, and Tektura was probably the first company that came on board to help us, and they have been outstanding. I mean, you want, I mean, they turn on a dime for us. It's really quite delightful, and they have so many wonderful surfaces and things that we are able to apply the designs to, which really change the effects and the outcomes of that. It's kind of a shame there isn't lighting on this. There's a lovely iridescence to that design here. And I think from having Tektura on board, they were actually the ones that people could start to see, understand what our students were doing. And they support our students with certificates and I forgot. Do you want to go back one? Maybe that was important. These are us doing the curatorial projects, and then we have our architecture students get involved also with stand design. So the whole thing is growing. The potential for this project even to grow even more is quite wonderful. But it's a very tight turnaround. So we can imagine that we're having the projects handed in around the middle of November, and they all have to be marked, and then they all have to get all the marks given back, and then we've got 6 weeks before the trade show opens to actually produce all of these outcomes. So we've been very, very lucky with our industry partners that they're able to support us and work.
Keep going.
Yeah. So I think, so what's in it for the students? This is working with the Live project. It's very motivational, exposure to industry. They come and work on the stand at the trade show also. I don't know, we've probably got pictures of that. They receive prizes which they can put on their CVs. They produce. Do you want to go back just one, Catherine? They by the end of the project, they have a really good body of work and potential outcomes. And we're always spoiled for choice. John and I do the curation for this show. My colleague John Hall, who's the exhibition manager at university.
It's very shy.
So we're spoiled for choice in terms of what we could be taking forward, and it's always a challenge we look to see what we feel actually projects what the trends are trying to convey most clearly, whilst being maybe the most unexpected outcomes in doing that, and of course looking for kind of a cohesive collection. Fabulous project, lots and lots of wonderful things from it, and we really do thank all of our industry partners and our students for what they're doing with us here. So our students sort of celebrating this year, and some of the stands from this year. And Catherine's a wonderful support with us in terms of the organization. You can imagine all the organizing that goes behind this to actually get the stands and do the costings and actually manage the whole project. It's very challenging, very challenging within a very short period of time.
I've been with Tektura now for just over 10 years. And previous to that, I've worked in the design industry and have a BA in textile design. So that's the boring bit over and done with. And again. Okay, so Tektura have had the privilege of working with universities, colleges, students in sort of all areas of design. Oh, and again. Okay, so that's Huddersfield University, so that was the surfaces design that we did with them. And then again, sorry, you've got our focus on there as well. It's okay, I think you've got the wrong one. And then also helping with the new designers, part of the BCFA, the collaboration we have with them, working on tutorials with them as well. And next one. And then this is Nottingham Trent, the interior architect students. We're close to our hearts. There's an example of a project we did with them. And then moving on again. And this is an exhibition we staged with Matthew Bolton, where they actually used our products to design the garments themselves. So it was part of the fashion. And again. Okay. We've held exhibitions, roadshows, tutorials and staged competitions where students' work has been displayed and critiqued by the A&D community. So as a company, we feel really, really strongly about being involved in education for the next generation of designers and actually what possibly could be our clients as well. So we've been working with universities for over 10 years, but had a great relationship with the BCU over the last 7 years. Okay. So, how have we been involved? So Birmingham City, working with Hive to set up the Innovation Award. The trend concepts published by Hive are passed to the students who then assign the task of creating textiles, wall coverings and room sets to convey a trend. And these are then displayed at various exhibitions. All very simple, I hear you say. But what you don't see, or you definitely see, what a lot of us don't see is all the hard work that the students put in. And it is a lot of hard work. However, I have had an experience where I have been able to get involved with tutorials and see what is involved, and it's quite amazing. For us, this really is very special because a lot of the students are designing with very little commercial experience, if any, and this is where we get a chance to give something back to them. Just a small amount of industry and commercial awareness does sometimes help. It gives them an opportunity to ask questions, and it can be as simple as, do we actually like it, to is there a way they need to be moving? If the student is looking to actually design in the leisure industry or high-end residential, sometimes we'll be able to steer them maybe a little bit in the right direction. Whether they want to listen to us or not is another different story, but nevertheless. So, or perhaps, you know, move on again, sorry. Oh, hello, there we go. So we've talked about roadshows, tutorials, all these sorts of things. But the other thing that we do is one-to-ones. And one of my most memorable experiences was working with a girl, God, must have been nearly 8-9 years ago, from Huddersfield University, who could barely look at me in her first tutorial when she described what she was trying to portray through her work. And over the weeks, and then towards the final exhibition, she spoke with so much pride. And it was immeasurable actually, and very tangible for us as well to be part of that. And that for us is what we get from it. We get to give something back. So from going from the creative input to putting our technical heads on, once the students are happy with the designs, we then go to print. And here's just a small snapshot of our print there. And then if you move on again, here we go. So, finally, the results are displayed by the BCU exhibitions, and the designs you can see here are from previous collaborations with the BCU and Hive. So, some of the students that have been involved. Michelle Clitheroe here, she's one of the students that worked with us in the beginning. She was a second-year student from Huddersfield, and her work really did stand out. She's now a successful carpet designer. Not for Brintons, but she's doing really well. And then this lady here, Myra, she she was from Cardiff University, and she won an award for her designs on a church. And she's now working in the Middle East for an international firm. And then students from the BCU. So Emma Shipley on the right-hand side, she won in 2008. And she's doing really well. She's a successful fabric designer and a blogger selling surreal print scarves and accessories illustrating wildlife. And she's also designed wallpaper for Graham and Brown, which is actually what you can see there. And we've been told actually her Instagram account is the one to look at. And then we can't talk about BCU without talking about Laura Hart. She's done incredibly well, and she won in 2014, specialising in printed textiles, and she's now selling her designs and also working for textural wall coverings. And she creates her own made-to-measure wall coverings for us, which we then obviously put forward. So she's doing really, really well. Most of her work is actually inspired by cityscapes. And then Hannah, which is the work here you can see on the right-hand side. Oh, that's a page. She's won this year. You're right, if you'd put a light on that, you'd have been really able to see the different levels and what's involved in that, because it really is quite outstanding. I don't know if she's not here, is she? No. I think, Angie, were you right in saying that some of her work's already been...
Yeah, Hannah's work was already being sold.
Yeah.
It's just as well she's not here because she doesn't know it yet. Yeah, we've already sold her design.
Yeah.
And who else? Charlotte's here as well, and Charlotte created a fabric design which is shown here. In addition to winning of the Common Creative Project, Charlotte was shortlisted in 2015 for the Birmingham Young Professional of the Year. So, there we go. So students and industry, the collaborations and the experience, we just can't underestimate how well it works. We thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you very much for letting us.
I'm a textile design graduate, but I currently work as a visual researcher for the Future Laboratory. And the Future Laboratory is a consultancy, and we specialise in trend forecasting, brand insight and strategy. And what we do is we help clients to understand changing markets, adapting to consumer needs, and also basically position their company for growth and success. And one of the biggest misconceptions I find about trend forecasting or mentioning the word trends is that it's restricted or limited to fashion and textiles. It really isn't. As soon as I say the word trends, someone's like, oh, so you work in fashion. Yes, we do consult fashion brands, but we work in a lot of a bigger picture than that. We work across 14 different industry sectors, from finance to technology to retail to tourism. And as a textile design graduate, you may be surprised to hear me say that. As well, like, these are some of the clients we work with. So QIC, Jameson, Sony, RBS Banking. It's such a different spectrum of clients. And it's also worth clarifying that I'm not kind of forecasting the future of materials for them. It's the future of technology and the future of tourism. So being able to work across such a spectrum of clients, it allows us to observe change in lots of different industries, because in the end, ultimately, trends are like patterns of human behaviour. It's not specific to fashion and textiles. So you may ask, you've graduated in textile design. What is your role in this company then? So we provide insight and strategy, and perhaps it's a little unusual, but we play a really important part on visuals, because we balance insight and visuals. We balance words and visuals. So I often, as a visual researcher, pair up with a strategist, and it's like balancing the visceral and the factual, and it makes clients really engage and understand with what we're trying to communicate. And also, as a visual researcher, I don't just sit at a desk and look at pretty pictures all day. I develop ideas and concepts, so I often work with the design team and the creative team to develop ideas and concepts from the very beginning to the end, so actually executing something as well. These are the type of deliverables I can work on. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with LSN Global, but it's an online insight and inspiration platform, which is a subcategory of the Future Laboratory. And it provides insight and inspiration to kind of show what's new and next and maybe game-changing in the industry. We also provide reports, live events, workshops, and also strategy and also creative execution, like actually executing a space or a physical outcome as well. So it's from the very beginning and the end. Next one, please. As an example of this, events we hold throughout the year are futures forums, and by doing this we invite people in to kind of have a glimpse of the future of a category. What we did last month for our Retail Futures Forum is we created a conceptual personal care brand, and it was in aim to celebrate sadness. And this was in a response to a kind of trend we've been monitoring and tracking recently, and we've titled it Emotional Economy, and it's where people are becoming increasingly more obsessed with how they're feeling and embracing a more full realm, on a spectrum of emotions. So for instance, you can't experience happiness without being sad at the same time. And we've been seeing this kind of movement in consumers, and we want it to show an example of how you can like utilize that and respond to it. So we created a space where we had all the different products in it that we created. It's like fictional and it's a concept, but it was just trying to show with different sound and different smells how you can tap into different emotions and create a more complex, I don't know, experience rather than being a single note campaign like Coke Just Be Happy as an example. Oh yeah, so this is my last slide. And I was hoping there was going to be lots of students in the audience, but I think it's more professionals. So I guess this doesn't really apply to the majority of you. But this was just a quote from a book that I used from education to graduating. And it was really useful. I can't actually read that. But it's kind of trying to say that although design school spends 90% of their time trying to perfect in their portfolio, it's actually more important to perfect other skills like communication, interpersonal skills, and I was just trying to end on an inspiring note, but I don't think there's any students here.
Well, I'm inspired anyway.
Oh, good, that means it's worked. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what questions you have. Now, instead of us like banging on about what's important, I think it'll be interesting to see if you have any questions.
I think more and more companies, they outsource the trend part and they look for companies like us, which is as well about inspiration, because the design departments are getting smaller and smaller, and they need to you need to have a team dedicated to this. The manufacturer companies, then they normally don't looking for a third party, or they don't buy a publication like Mix. It's because or they have somebody very creative inside and they filter the information, or because they have a big department into it. As well, I think historically, the majority of the manufacturers was like family companies, and they grow, and sometimes they don't grow enough strong to build up a brand like Brintons. They bring a brands in a different directions, and they are very established in what they do, and they tend to do every time the same. But unfortunately, because we're living in a global world, and they have a lot of issues with the new entries and more people selling internationally, they have to up their game. And that's why it's when you buy into to have a services as a third party, because you cannot monitor everything, and sometimes you can go around to many shows. You can go to Milan, you can go to Mason, you can go to the shows in Frankfurt for flooring, but filter all the information and put it together, it takes you a lot of time. If you know beforehand what is coming, and if you already are working with new inspirational ideas, then it works differently. The majority of the times people come to us with a problem, and they say to us, we are selling very well here, but we are not selling that well there, what we can do. Or we have improved our collection, and now we find out that we have a lot of whites, what I can do now to go a little bit outside of the white spectrum. And there is where we filter the trends. You see the trends very bumped up when you look into magazines, and we don't cool hunting the trends and go around hunting and report back and look into lifestyle. We are forecasters in the more organic way. We have been doing this for the last 15 years, and our job is to bring the inspiration before it's not in the hands of anybody else. That's why all our photography is unique, and that's why we like very much to get involved in this type of projects. Because for us, it's inspired, but as well at the same time, when you're a professional, to have something that is sells in the same way. You cannot work with all the colors of play, for example, if you are doing a specific product, but if you are electronics, or you are coming from other industries, perhaps they are more beneficial for you. We have a really long rate of different companies that we work with, but our house always have been the interior market, so we are always happy to participate in things in this level, because interiors is what we know the best, and it has been bring to us a lot of creativity, although sometimes it's very constrained in terms of budget. You know better than anybody, so as well to create a product that is not just beautiful, as well as sellable in the way that you put it together. So it's a big combination, and it's a lot of thought on the process, I think.
I agree with you. I think in response to your question as well, I think we've got so much access to knowledge these days, like on our fingertips. We're so connected, consumers are being increasingly educated, and there's so many inspiration platforms. But I think something I've noticed is people are more interested, and it's becoming more popular to kind of go to specialist consultancies and people who can create bespoke projects, because you can go on an inspiration platform and be informed and inspired, but if you go to a bespoke project, then a consultant can actually tailor it exactly to your needs and target audience, because one retail brand might not use the same colour palette as another brand. So I think bespoke projects are becoming increasingly more popular as well.
Also to bring it from one country to another, because the colors that they work for us in here, it will not particularly work for another country. And sometimes that's the main issue. Then maybe you have your design team based in a specific location, and not everybody have the same views in Paris or in other countries, and they want you to target. So in there is where you need a color specialist to help you to understand the local culture and how the trends filter through.
Because of the space of this project,
seemed to
it's a
be
7-week project,
Yeah.
what we're really hoping for is for them to stretch the concepts, to come up with the ideas without worrying about fully resolving something. Because if they spend their energies fully resolving something, they're going to have, in the space of time that they have, it's going to be a very small body of work. What's really interesting is to get their ideas, and then some of us get involved in actually pushing those ideas forward without changing what they're doing, basically doing the technical work, if you like, in terms of developing those ideas. But very much from it's all about just encouraging the students to expand their technical expertise, their creative outputs. This is a tremendous parameter for the students to work in. It's not prescriptive, it's just a lovely parameter. I mean, when you think about it, if somebody told you to design a carpet, would you like to design a carpet? Where are you going to start? Where do you start? I mean, and so that's what the trends do. They give you a start, and it's a start that's an informed start, actually filtering all the information, all this wonderful information that we're all privy to. Filter it, it's that becomes its own challenge. So having had it filtered and really the energy of these very intelligent and creative people to actually create that parameter, that you can give creatives that parameter and then they do something exciting with it, and that's what the industry wants. They want to be excited, they want to be delighted, they want to be surprised, and that's what we're trying to hope our students can achieve.
The problem that you have, and not just when you are a student, because you're coming from a creative background, sometimes you are very focused on something, you develop your own taste. And as a designer, it's always about your taste, which sometimes sells amazingly for some of them. But at other times, they are going to have to working with people like Brintons or Textura, and you're going to give them a brief. So they need to understand to work with different colors and outside of the comfort zone. And I think that's what the project does for the students as well. Perhaps the color palette that they give it to them is not their personal choice, or maybe at the beginning they don't feel engaged with the colors. But for them, it's nice to see how colors that they are completely outside of what they thought at the beginning, how they can become something that they are proud of it. That's why the awards, it play a very nice role inside of the whole project, because then they can see it, then they have been maybe working in a different capacity, and they can develop something that is as well beautiful and give them confidence to go out to the market and work in different companies and think a little bit with another mentality.
Because they get colours and they get words, don't they? It's a sort of
Exactly.
like a sort of general idea of what the trend is, and that's quite nice as well. So you get things like nostalgia, or as this was the geological one. So there's these other things going on as well, which is quite interesting.
Yes, because I think everybody have a different way to learning, and some of us were more visual, and other ones we're hearing. So that's the way we develop our trends. The trends have 3 dimensions. They have the image dimension, the colors, which for us is such an important part because it's the beginning of everything. But as well, you have your understanding when you're reading and how you understand the feeling of the trend. Some people look to palettes as a global thing for the season and don't divide it in different trends. But other people, they work with a specific depending. So I think that's as well nice for the students because they can understanding from different directions. At the end of the day, it's about creativity, I think, for them, and then become something tangible. Yes.
And then as well, on a kind of another level, because I did do this project as a student, and you know, you can take it in whatever direction you want. For me personally, not everyone, but I was really interested in, okay, so this is the trend, like why is this the trend? And I was really curious in, you know, why are you telling me this? How have you got through that process? And through that I managed to actually intern at Global Colour Research. It was like 4 years ago now.
Colour Hive now.
But you just, it makes you enthusiastic to learn in the direction you want to go.
But that whole concept of trends has been really important in your. So you've been now. You did your internship with Colour Hive,
Yeah.
and then you went and had another. You were employed at another trend agency.
Yeah.
And now you're also involved in trends in even a sort of a broader perspective now. So I think this is something that we're finding is that our students are just fascinated by the themes and the concepts, and actually. The more they tap into it and understand that it's not a surface, you're not sort of skimming when you're thinking about trends. It's actually quite a deep subject. That the more that they understand that, the more fascinated they become with it, and the more they want to know about it. And we've had quite a few students go on to work with trend agencies now.
Yes, we have a few. Hannah is one of our students at Birmingham that now is the head of our creative department, and we have a few of them and they come to work with us, and after they move in different ways. And it's true, I think it's because when you're a creative person, color inspires so much just for what it is. And for them, they find it fascinating to see that this is a living and this is something that you give back something to the market as well.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
I'd like to ask a question. How many people?
As long as it's not too long.
Well, no, I just, we are now currently revisiting our course and revalidating our course, and one of the things that we would like some feedback on is what you think you would like students to be better able to do. What do you think they're missing in their education? What should we be adding into our program to make them even more valuable to future employers?
I've got an answer. I can answer a question. I don't know, for me, I was always interested in the bigger picture, and I feel sometimes in education it can be quite not looking at the bigger picture. So like we're seeing sustainability as something really transforming fashion and textiles at the minute, and I think people can tap into this more and actually make materials and textiles more purposeful, maybe. I don't know, that's just a personal opinion though, because I don't know, I see a lot of different
Do you see that kind of as a different sort of a different stream, or you would be focusing projects on that sustainability issue, or
Perhaps.
or that's a different textile stream and sort of engaging
Perhaps.
with?
I think just
So-
kind of
Yes.
to consider it in the mindset as a designer, like you are creating an outcome, what's the effect of this outcome you're creating? Does it affect people? Can it make a positive change? I don't know.
Start off with, this is how you're going to make it.
No,
Yeah.
but one thing
But-
that I didn't say was it's actually interesting because until whoever we're working with, when they go to print, you can spend weeks putting these designs together, and the colours look so right and the design looks so right, and it's not until they go to print that actually sometimes it's not viable at all, and it's such a huge disappointment to them. But that's real life.
Yeah.
It sucks, but that's what happens, and that's part of what we are there to do for them. But it's it's the rough with the smooth.
I mean, I think I see this more and more, that it's a question of time and expertise. Not everybody can do everything. And the more that I meet people who are working in industry, the more you realize that their time is extremely precious, and they may not have the time to do this kind of research. So they buy into this trend information because that's something that they have confidence in, because they know it's coming from a very well-informed company, and they can have confidence in that, and then they can spend their energy and time doing the job that they're best at. So it's just one of these things. It's just it's not a superficial thing. Just create a trend, and you need to have a starting point for whatever project it is that you're doing. And if you're working to deadlines and you know, and you're a small team, which a lot of people are, you know, you do what you're best at, and you try and try to be efficiently make up for what you're not best at, and getting this information is extremely valuable.
Thank you. Amy?
For me, I don't really think it's a case of needing trends, because we don't. Trends are always going to be there. It's inevitable, because we are human beings who like to stick together, and we naturally follow and lead. Not as black and white as that, but we do follow and lead and stick together. And ultimately, trends are patterns of human behaviour. Like whether we monitor it or not, they're going to be there. But the advantage of being able to monitor them is being able to look at the landscape and see what your competitors are doing, the competing market, and making the decision of whether you want to follow or take your own path. You don't necessarily need to follow trends either. You can backlash against that.
Sorry. Carry on.
No, I think that's about it. Yeah.
I think we have been saying, we haven't get to ask this question a lot, and you only have to think in that sometimes a color can ruin your product, and having the wrong color at the wrong time, it means that perhaps your brand is going to suffer from it, because it will not be picked up by the press, it will not be picked up by the public. At the end of the day, there is some companies that they are really good in creativity, but there is other companies that they need to sell, and they need to sell a certain numbers in order to make a profit. And for this, you have to engage with your customers and with your audience, and you have to engage with the surroundings around you. And customers are more and more savvy, and they want to know more, as she said before, about the trends that they are coming, about what's going to happen. It's something on the magazines, on the newspapers, and they want you to have and be this person, because at the end of the day, we all aspire to be somebody else, or we aspire to be in a group of people. The trends help us to put products there that help people to fulfill their inspirations and their aspirations, but as well help us to have enough time to put the right product together. If your manufacturing project it lasts 12 months, 16 months, you need to know what is going to happen in that time and how the colors are going to change, because definitely your product is not going to be picked up by the press if it's not made in the right colors. It doesn't mean that all your products have to be on trend. You have your best sellers, you have your PR products, and you have to have a concise mix and match about it. Yes, exactly. Sometimes you can talk about the perfect color, but there is never a perfect color. There is no color of the year. There is a combination of colors. Then it creates who you are and who you want to sell to. And sometimes we see how architecture inspires, and we see now it's more lightweighting than ever. And you need to have a product that is not that heavy when it comes into flooring. And the same thing happens with everything around you. So that's why trends help you as a professional, because it gives you a strategy to think through. As well can inspire you, and if you are in interior design, you get inspired by the trends. But if you are a manufacturer, it's your strategy, how you are going and where you are going with it.
Yeah, and listening to the three of you, we come from a slightly different angle. And every time we're launching a new product, there's a story behind it, and it's culture, it's history, it's global.
Heritage, yes.
Absolutely, but it all goes into one melting pot. And there might be one hero in a scheme, but there's a collection, and the collection brings the hero forward. It brings the historic product that sits in the background that doesn't say too much, but it needs to be there for the rest of it to speak. So for us, I don't know, it's a bit of everything, but we take it from every direction, but we are, at the end of the day, the solution for the architects, the interior designers, and we're coming to them with a solution, a quick solution. They don't have the time to be sitting there reading through the trend magazines, Instagram, Pinterest, all these things that are hitting us constantly. We are going to them with a story, with a solution, with as much as we can give them, and they can just say, that's the one.
Exactly, and as well, everybody, their life has changed so much with the online, and now you don't have the time, and you're living in a different way. Through recessions, different history, geographic movements than we do. I didn't born here, I come from another country, and I moved here and adapted to here. But as well about political changes, everybody's affected by that, and it changed, as she said before with that product, and she was speaking to us about emotions. it changes the way you feel. And that is reflected on the trends. And as well, this person, when it comes to talk with Nicola and pick up a product, it will have her own view, and it will want to have something exciting all the time. You don't want, heritage is always a trend because it gets reinterpreted every year, and every year we look into where we're coming from because we want to know where we are going. And I think
you can't know where
exactly. So you always like to have this link, but at the same time there are many reinterpretations of your bag, your new techniques. You put together something new. How are going to put it? How are going to cite you? If I tell you the technical things of a product, sometimes it's not going to sell you. No, so you need to have something exciting there. So I think trends is where they play the role. They are prescriptive. Sometimes they can be, but as well is another way to have a new creativity. Many times I talk with interior designers and they say to me, they get inspired by nature where they live. How long you can sell this, you know? You need to have other inspiration because as well as a creative person, you need to have every time something new. Then it helps you to grow as a person. At the end of the day, we work the majority of our lives, so we want to do something that we love it. And I think we are quite privileged in here.
Very much so.
Exactly, in this industry.
Okay, thank you very much.